And on the next one, we have another quadratic, and it's already equal to 0, which is what we want. We want to end up with that same thing that we had before, where you've got two brackets being times together, and it's equal to 0. So we just need to try to factorize this if we can. But what we notice about this one quite quickly is that it's not actually possible to factorize it. So whenever you're trying to solve a quadratic, I would highly recommend trying to factorize it first, because that's normally the quickest way to solve it. But there's other methods that we could use as well. One of those is by completing the square. So one of those skills that we looked at last lesson, we're going to come on to how we can do that. But another method that we can use is something known as the quadratic formula. And essentially the quadratic formula is really helpful because it's a formula that lets you find your two solutions just by substituting them into your calculator, or you can even work it out manually. And the quadratic formula is simply minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, and then the whole thing is divided by 2a. So that formula there will allow us to find the two solutions to this quadratic. And all that we need to do is identify what our a's, b's, and c's are. And all that we need to do is look back at the original quadratic that we had, and we can see it's in the correct form. We have got some sort of ax squared, or instead of x, we're using y in this case, but it's still a quadratic. It doesn't matter what the letter is. We're adding on some sort of bx, or the 5y that we've got there. We can imagine it's a 5x. And then we've got some sort of constant on the end. That is our c part. So our a's, b's, and c's, we can quite clearly get now. So the a is the number in front of the squared term, the b is the number in front of the linear term, so the 5 in this case, and then the c is the constant on the end. So for this quadratic that we've got here, our a would be a 1, because it's really a 1y squared. Our b would be equal to 5, there's a 5 in front of the y, and our c would be the constant on the end, which is a positive 1. So now all that we need to do is plug those numbers into our quadratic formula and see if we can get some sort of solution for this. So let's do that now. So x is equal to minus b, so that's going to be a minus 5, plus or minus the square root of b squared, so 5 squared, minus, I'm going to put it in a bracket here, I'd highly recommend doing that as well when you put it in your calculator, minus 4 times by a, which is a 1, times by c, which is another 1, and then it's all over 2 times by a, so 2 times by 1. So the first time that I put this into my calculator, I'm going to do it with a plus sign for this part here, and then the second time that I do it, I'm just going to change that plus for a minus, and that's how we'll get our two solutions. So when I do that the first time with the plus sign in there, I get that x is equal to minus 0.209. Always good to give your answers to at least 3 significant figures. That's what they're looking for in the exam. And when I do it the second time, with the minus sign in there instead, I get minus 4.79. And again, that is to 3 significant figures, which is enough.